The Chad muzzle brakes are nearly ready to ship. So now it's time to talk about what it's like to shoot it, why it's like that, and how to get the best out of it. So the Chad is the first redirected blast muzzle brake on the market. Now what that means is the entire blast from the muzzle brake is coming upwards at an angle. We're not having the majority of it come rearward or sideways on the horizontal plane and redirecting some of it upwards to combat muzzle rise. The entire blast is coming upwards at an angle. So it's very different in that regard. Now, the two main advantages of that are, one, it holds the muzzle down with authority and it just tracks backwards in an extremely flat way, which is a new and very different sensation. The second is because the entire blast is coming upwards and it's coming rearwards at the same time, when you're behind the gun, the blast comes up over the top of your head like this. The benefit to that is the blast is no longer coming and hitting you in the face. There's no pressure, there's no force, you're not feeling wind in your face anymore. And it gives you the sensation of a reduced blast, reduced concussion design. But also when you're in the prone position and it's dusty and dirty, or you're in and around dusty or dirty objects, and the reason that I came up with this was I was at Lead Farm and we were shooting off of hay bales, and every single person with a rearward angled port muzzle brake that would shoot it would get straw and particles and shit all in their face. And I was like, this is horrible. I don't want to ever do that again. I don't want my customers experiencing that. So that's why I came up with this. None of that stuff is going to blast you in the face anymore. It's going to come up over the top of your head. So because of that, the Chad's very different to shoot. It behaves very differently. And let's get into a few of the reasons why and how best to run the gun with a Chad. It's best to run the Chad with a neutrally balanced rifle. So for example, if you have an 8-inch long bag, you want a 4-inch balance point for your rifle, because of how much it holds the front of the rifle down under recoil. You don't really want a front heavy biased rifle. So for example, if you've got an 8-inch long bag, you don't want your balance point at 4.5 inches, because when you have a front end heavy rifle, and if you're pushing down on the front of the rifle, either over the top or at the front of the bag, it's easy to push the rifle downwards and have negative muzzle rise, which is just as bad as muzzle rise. If you're on an unstable position, or the front of the rifle, because of the front of the bag isn't supporting the rifle as well as it should. But it depends on you, your technique, your rifle setup and everything. You might be able to get away with that if you don't really hold down the front of the rifle that much. You just let it track back and you're just sort of guiding it either over the top or on the rifle itself. But yeah, there's very few circumstances where you're aggressively forcing the front of the rifle down, if not none at all. You're mostly just grabbing the front of the rifle and supporting the rifle and the bag and locking them together just so that it's not pushing down. You're just allowing it to just track backwards. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the most important thing with the Chad, like front end, front bag support for the rifle, and just letting it just track backwards. And when you do that correctly, you'll see in the videos that I've been putting up over the last couple of weeks how much success you can have when you do it correctly. When you have a neutrally balanced rifle, when you have a Drenger bag, when you have a Chad, and you use good fundamentals. The amount of reticle movement and recoil you have is pretty laughable It's, yeah, on a 6 GT like this, there's hardly any at all. It's cool. So how I've adapted my technique and my rifle setup to work with the Chad, and that I find works best for me. Obviously it's going to be different for everyone. Your rifles are different, your balance point, your bodies, your technique, everything's different. But for me, how I find the best way to run this is with good fundamentals, trying to be square to the rifle as much as possible. I'll pull the rifle back into my shoulder with my firing hand with a medium amount of pressure, and I'll grip the bag and the rifle together, you know, maintaining good front support of the rifle so that I'm not getting negative muzzle rise or droop of the front end, and I'll simply be pulling the rifle with the support hand back into my shoulder as well with a medium amount of pressure. And what that does is it simply allows the Chad to completely take over the muzzle rise and the recoil. And what I'm doing is I'm simply just managing the wobble in my shoulder as the recoil event occurs. And you can see in the videos that I post up, you know, when I do this correctly, the amount of success that you can have and reticle movement. Yeah, it's cool how little it actually moves. But yeah, take some time to adjust your rifle setup, adjust your technique to work with the brake. And in those videos, like I've shown, that shows you how much success you can have with this when you take a day or two to just, you know, work with the brake instead of just trying to force it to work like other brakes, because it's not, it's different and it behaves different. But what everyone really wants to know is, when are we getting them? When are they going to be available? So all of the parts have now been made. We had a delay of about 2 or 3 weeks with the parts, unfortunately, but that's been rectified. Now all of the parts are either on their way to the welders now or already at the welders. A good amount of them have been welded and are being welded at the moment, and those are going off to coating over the next couple of days. We expect by the end of this month those ones to be completed and those ones to be shipping out. So obviously all of the original pre-orders, thank you for your patience, thank you for your trust. You people are awesome. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. Those orders are going out first, so don't expect, if you weren't an original pre-order, to get it straight away. You'll have to wait that, you know, 2 or 3 weeks for those delayed parts to catch up. But end of next month, worst case, I'd say aim, what should happen is middle of next month, the last one should be completed. But yeah, that's the timeline. They're pretty much nearly done at this point. And yeah, they look great, the quality's great, and yeah, take a look at the photos that I've been posting up. They're beautiful, you're gonna love it. The performance is awesome. Thank you for being patient, thank you for your confidence, and yeah, we're all gonna be running Chad soon and having no recoil, and that is awesome. What is a shit?